Test, test. Alright, audio seems to be working. Welcome, welcome. We're going to be starting a new series of where we're going to be making an incremental game. So, we're using this with Unity, and I have a Writer here open instead of Visual Studio, which is a paid for service. It allows me to do a little bit more into Visual Studio that we'll show in the future. But we started a new 2D URP game dev, and I've created this object here called scripts. This is where I keep two of the more important scripts on here. It has to be inside of the scene, and I just want to attach it to an object for the mono behavior. Created a folder called scripts, and we started with our game manager, which I've already opened. So we're going to need to attach that game manager to this object in order for it to initialize into the game. And then the other script that we're going to be building is called the UI manager. And this is basically going to handle all of my UI interactions inside of the game that I need for later. So with those two, let's talk about what we're going to be building here. We're going to be building an incremental idle game. To explain what that means, as soon as it's done loading, is that the focus game is to progress faster and faster as time goes on. We're going to have iterations, and each iteration you go through the game is going to be faster and faster. Manual operation of the game will be optimal, but I want everything to be able to be automated, as it's an idle game. We're going to be making a space and fleet management themed game. So we're going to be basically, the story is the Earth is destroyed. You're a flotilla of space going through the cosmos, and you need to protect yourself and to keep building a bigger fleet. Personnel management is going to be the focus of the game. We have a set limit of colonists, and we'll be able to also clone, and there will be robots later on. But basically, it's being able to crew all of these ships. If you lose a ship, you lose crew. And experience is going to be part of the incremental idle. So you're going to be able to, every iteration, you're going to save some of your crew for the next iteration. You'll be able to save more crew as we go on. And then that's basically the incremental side of it. So we'll have different ship types that have different abilities, and we'll be able to create templates. So the automation part of it is you'll be able to create your own type of ship, and then you tell the game how many you want to build, where you want to place them and stuff, and that will be most of the idle game. There'll be a grid. It will make a hex-based grid, and we'll be able to arrange ships so that if something is, we'll have all of our ships onto the left of the screen, and if you have ships to the right of a ship, it protects it from fire. And so there will be some grid placement strategies there too, and you'll be able to automate where you place all these ships on your grid. And then at the beginning, we'll have 10k colonists to be unfrozen. The ability, but you'll be able to instantly get crew from unfreezing colonists, but you'll only have a limited supply. While we can clone, but it takes longer. So, and then eventually we'll have robots that don't have experience. So that's that. Today, what we're going to be doing is, these are our short-term goals. Hopefully we can get through all of this today. We're going to set up the game dev environment, which I've pretty much done. Get the main game manager object and simulation set up, and then we're going to tie in that to the UI. Then we're going to create our first object, which is a mothership, and we want the health to be displayed. After that, we're going to have our resources objects that we're basically like asteroids, and then we need to be able to mine those and we start receiving resources to our inventory. And then we're going to display all that. We're going to get this into the simulation. We're going to create a miner that can harvest that resource, and then we want to be able to switch objects with the miner and make sure that when it's depleted, the resource object disappears, and we also change all of our event listeners correctly so that we have memory leaks. And that's hopefully what we can get through today. Later on, we're going to have some other midterm goals. These are hopefully going to be entire episodes here. So we want to start, after we get all the mining done, we want to start implementing crew management. And then we're going to have different jobs. Then we need to get the experience gain working. Then we need to create our first enemy faction, which will be other humans. There'll be other enemy factions. Then we start having random interactions with those. And then we're going to have our combat system as well. And then we're going to have loot drops from those random encounters, like permanent upgrades. And then we're going to implement the restart mechanic, where it basically reset and stuff. Because what's going to cause us to reset is the enemy factions, so we need those in before we can start resetting. And then we're going to create the ability to save crew members. And later on, once we start having this done, we can start implementing other things that we want to figure out. Add more alien factions to the game. They're going to be very different. We have a bunch of different damage types. Each faction will be have much different tactics than the other ones. Much more ship classes to the game. We want frigates, corvettes, cruisers, battleships, carriers, all kinds of stuff. Add special abilities to different classes. And so once, as our grid starts to grow, we can start having the ability to have multiple ships within the same grid to protect and stuff. And then we'll have leaders that can manage all of this, give bonuses to all the crew, and have it all balanced out. And then we have a research tree as well. So we'll be able to research things like each ship can have more crew. We can save more crew for each iteration, and more damage types, and stuff like that. And then international markets, we got all this loot that we're dropping and stuff. We want to be able to exchange it on a market to get what stuff you need. And I don't know. This is something, an idea I had. Maybe colonization of planets to replenish your frozen, or the colonists that are on ice that are with you. But I'm not sure exactly. This isn't really. It's more of an idea. But we'll get to it. So hopefully we can get this done today. So we set up the game dev environment. That is done. And this was completed in episode 1. So we can look back and see what. So let's set up the game manager. So we have one of the things that I usually do is I have this modern UI pack. This is something I think got for $10 off the Unity store. It's actually very, very good. What I'm looking for is a window manager. And then we're going to import, I guess it didn't have TMP set up. I thought I did. Alright, so we have our window manager here. Let's see. Yep. So this is what I usually always use for why can't I say? That's right. So the UI is set up all the way over here. Okay, so we're going to fill the screen with this. It has 3 windows that are implemented here. And if you click on it, so we'll start the game real quick. If you click on it, it will switch between these 3 windows with some animations. So we're just going to be using one window for now. We're going to need a background as well. And it's actually pretty nifty. It has these buttons, and then you have the windows. So as long as these are named the same, it'll be able to easily flip through. And you can add more if you want to. So if I want to like copy this, we'll have a 4th window. So for now, we're just going to have one window. Then we'll have a research screen, probably not, probably something else over here. But for the one, we're just looking at the one window. So let's go ahead and rename this to, let's see. We'll just call this the game for now. And then this content, we're just going to remove this text. Okay, so we have a game manager. We have these example here. There's three. This is a mono behavior. So basically, this is able to interface with Unity here. Most of our game is going to be a simulation, which is going to be normal C# class objects. But this is how we interact. So there's also a third one called void await. And this happens to initialize all of it. So sometimes when you do awakes, they don't happen in the order you really want them to. So this is like the initialization of this class. I use start to initialize and set up with other classes, not this one. And an update is what happens every frame. So if you want something to happen every frame, like for instance, what we're going to be doing with the game manager is that we need to pass time passed, how much time has passed to our simulation. And we need to do that every frame. As long as you have everything happens within 13.3 milliseconds, there's going to be no frame skipping. So our simulation needs to be under that pretty much for the entire game. So we'll see that when we go. But update is where we pass time to our simulation. So let's go ahead and create our simulation. So we're going to need to create a we're going to start getting our folders together. So we're going to create a folder here called let's call it game. Inside here, we're going to create the first class, which is the game class. And this is going to hold all of our simulation. So this is not a mono behavior, so we need to get rid of this. And we don't have these starts here. We do have a constructor. So first thing we want to so this is our constructor. It's going to be run every single time. It's not a void, doesn't have a return type. Every time it creates, it's going to initialize some things. We don't need any of this. And then we need a namespace for it. Okay. Alright, so when we this is going to have pretty much every single one of our simulation objects is going to have an update here, and it's going to take a float. So this is how we pass time pass, how much time has passed in the simulation. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to have inside of our game is we're going to have our fleet, basically. So inside of our fleet, we're going to have the homes, the mothership, if that makes sense. So we need to create a class. We're going to keep all of our stuff that has to do with fleets here. And we're going to create a fleet object. Because eventually we want to also have other fleets, like enemy fleets and stuff. So, and then we're also going to need to create, and then we'll have ship types. ship types, and then this will have a mothership. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up this. If I can just open up here. Okay. All right. So in the game, we're going to have in the game manager, we have a public game. We'll just call game. We need to initialize it. So a game is equal to new game. And this doesn't, there's nothing really to construct here, so. So this is a namespace here. We don't need to start anything right now. And then for the update, we're going to pass time in. So game dot update, and then we're going to time dot delta time. So this is a Unity object here that has the time between how long it takes for each frame. And we're going to pass that to the simulation. Alright, I think we're good. No, we don't need that to be public. Okay, so within the game we're going to have a fleet. So we have a fleet here, and this is not a mono behavior, so I'm going to get rid of this. And then this is a okay, so in here we have a public fleet. So let's call it let's call it the player fleet. And when we initialize, we need to create a new one. So player fleet is equal to new fleet. And then we're going to have an update on this. So public void update. And it's going to take a float of time passed. And same thing for the mothership. So public void update. Public private mothership. We're probably actually not going to be passing time to mothership. No, we are, because it's going to be creating stuff, so it's fine. Alright, so on the mothership, we're going to have a health. So public health float. So the best way to do this for what we want to do is when we're on the UI, whenever the health changes, we want the UI to automatically update. So the way to do this is you're going to have a private float of current health, and you have a private float of max health. And then we're going to create two public properties. Um, Max health usually didn't change. So that's not the problem. It's current health that changes. So we're just gonna make a property for current health. So we're gonna make this one the upspace, and then we're gonna have a getter and a setter. So we have a get, and then you have a set. So whenever you have the setter or the getter, you're going to so whenever something accesses this property, you need to return something. So you're going to return current health. What's your problem? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And then for the setter, we have a thing. So we have an incoming value. All right. So we're going to set current health is equal to value. And then so there's also something that sometimes we can heal more than max health. So if current health, if value is greater than, if value plus current health, no, yeah, if value is greater than max health, then we want to just current health is equal to max health. Otherwise, we're just gonna set the current health to max health. So it's not needed. All right, so we're going to set this up here because we're going to be able to update the UI. There's something else we need to do as well, which is we need to create an event. So on the mothership, every time we want to know what the health is or other things, we're going to send that up. So every time it changes, we want to alert other things in the game that it's changed. So there's actually going to be, I don't want to keep doing this for every single one, and the UI doesn't care what type of ship it is. He just wants to know the health. So we're going to create an interface, and this interface is what we're going to be using on all ships to make sure that we can test for its health. So we're going to go into, we're going to create another folder. And I try to keep all my interfaces in one place. They're not specific to one thing, so we're going to have up here, just create a folder for interfaces. And we'll have the ship health. So create a script, and interface is almost all, the convention for C# is to always have a capital I in front of any interface. So this is ship health. This is not a mono behavior, but it is an interface. So instead of a class, we say interface. All right, so everything in an interface has to be public. So public, we need the current health, and this is going to be a float. And these have to have getters and setters. Okay, and then we have to have a event. And that's to have a return type. So I think it's action. Yeah, action, and we're going to send two floats. And this is going to be an event, I think. Or does the action already cover it? And ship health changed. Okay, I don't think I need the event. I think it's going to be. Alright, so then this, we need to import the reference. That's odd. Interface cannot contain instance fields. Alright, so I messed something up. Is this an event? Does that work? I totally forgot how to do this. Alright, let me Google this real quick. Oh dear Lord Google. How do we, what is the syntax in C# for a event action in an interface? Oh, let's go here. There we go. Done. Thank you, dear Lord Google. Okay, so we have a ship health change action. Every time that we want to fire off this action, we want to give two floats. For this would be the current health and max. We want to know basically. This allows us to give percentage of health. So for at 60% health, if we need both the max health and the current health. Okay, so whenever we're testing, so now we want to put the interface here. So you do a colon and iShip health like this, and then we want to implement stats, and then it automatically throws that on there for you. So whenever we change the health, so and we only want to do it when it changes. So if we can set a temp variable here, so float temp equals current health, and then if temp is not equal to current health, then we want to fire off the ship health change. So ship health changed, and then we put a question mark there so that if it's undefined, if there's no one listening to it, it'll send an undefined. So we don't want undefined here. So it just checks for undefined to make sure that before it sends it off. And then we want to invoke. And then we send off a 2, which is the current health, and the max health. And that's it. I don't know what the hell this is. Yeah, if it's just not equal to it, that's all I care about. Because it won't change if value here. So if it's already at, let's say if it's at 50, and it already doesn't do that. So one of the things we need is now we need to set the first health. So when we initialize it, we need a constructor. I usually put them after the events. So public mothership float time fast. No, we don't need that. Okay, so current health is you'll say max health. So max health. We don't want to hard code these, so I'll make a status class to control all of my constants. And later on, we will have research and stuff that will change this as we go. Use var. Okay, sure. I don't care about var. Okay, so we're all set up now. We should be able to detect this on the UI now. So let's go ahead and go into the game. And then we're going to need to, first off, we need to create a UI manager. Or really what we need to, the game manager has the game, and we need a reference to the UI manager. So let's call it public. So in a mono behavior, when you have a public variable, it'll show up in the inspector, and I can give a reference to the UI manager. So we want a UI manager, and we'll just call it the UI. And in here, now that it's set and we've saved, and in here we can UI manager usually doesn't have an update. It does have a wait though. So we're gonna have a reference. The UI manager gonna have a reference also to the game manager. Because in order for us to link up all of our UI to the simulation, it needs a reference to the simulation. We're gonna need, so when we talk about this, so this is where we're handling our UI. The first thing we need to handle is basically all of our fleet. So we're going to create a fleet UI. And the fleet UI will have the mothership like object, the UI object, so you can see how much health is on it and stuff. So we're going to create we're going to put a fleet UI. Okay, so this is the game. And then we're going to have another folder for all the UI objects. First one we need is a fleet UI. And then eventually we're going to need the, it's basically just like I don't want a specific one for the mothership UI. It's just a ship UI. And on this ship UI is where you're going to have the health and other things as well. So the fleet UI, let's go ahead and start changing this. So this we're going to rename is to the fleet. And we have to rename this as well. And it has to point to, and over here on the inspector window, has to point to fleet in order for it to work. And let's go ahead and read this to fleet. Alright, so let's just test to make sure this works. Does not work. Okay. Let's see, pressed. It's because this is not reading. Okay, so this is fleet. There we go. That should work. So we need to name the, so this is unpressed, and then if I press it, it'll change. So we need to change the pressed icon, which is fleet. At all. Annoys me. I don't like the icon either, but pretty sure if I delete the icon, it breaks some stuff, and I don't want to deal with it right now. I just have to go into the actual scripts and disable the testing to see if there's an icon there or not. Why is it so far? Because when you click on it, it like separates between the icon and the text. Not sure why it does that. All right. Anyway, so what we're gonna keep our fleet object on is a list. So here we have the tip. Let's go ahead and delete the tip. So this is all of our content. It's gonna be sized inside here. So we're going to create a list view, and for now we're just gonna keep it on here. And then it has each of these. It has an example. Let's just keep it half. It's fine for now. Until we're basically gonna be creating a grid later on. It has a scroll area. Here's all the items, so you can delete the items. And these are going to be our where our ships. So we're going to attach the fleet UI here, and then the item is we're going to change here is going to be a ship, and that's going to have a ship UI. Okay, so these are all of our objects. So we have our list view. It's going to contain all of our ships. And on the ship, we're going to have two texts. We're just going to have the title of what the class is. For this is the mothership. And then the other one is going to be the health. So we'll just say ship, and then we'll have this change here later. And we're going to keep this into the top right. Drop the fonts a little bit like that. And then we're going to have the health. So then we're going to create another one. This is the health. And this is the ship name. Okay. And it's going to look like, we'll just say 50 out of 50. And that one's going to be anchored at the bottom here. Okay, so that's good for now. And then we're going to be changing this stuff program. And we'll make a button that's going to decrease the health of the ship to make sure all the events are fired and making it work before we move on to the next thing. Okay, so let's open up these scripts. Let's put it in the UI namespace. Okay, and then we have our UI manager ship. Got it. Okay, so then we're gonna have a public fleet UI, and we'll just call it the FUI. And inside the FUI, we'll have the ship types and stuff, and we'll have a mono behavior, or not a mono behavior, a prefab. So Unity allows you to create prefabs where you can just initialize a UI object or a game object, and it already has the attached scripts, and we just have to initialize it. So let's go ahead and we need to create a fleet UI, or actually we need a reference to these two. So now that I've created these as public, you can also do, if you wanted to make these private, you can just have it say show inspector. If you leave everything public and allow anything to activate it, but we're not going to do that, and I'm just going to keep it public for now. Okay, so we have our fleet UI here. So our UI manager is here, and it's looking for a game manager and here, and then we also want the UI manager here. So it has access to the UI manager, the game manager, and it is a fleet UI. So which is here. So now we have, I've basically told this script, like this is the object that has the script, and you have a direct reference to it, so that's good. And then on the Fleet UI, we need a, okay, so we're gonna have multiple ships, so we need a list. So we're going to create a, okay, so first off, when we start the game, we don't have anything initialized. So if I have just direct reference to that ship type, it's not going to exist in the game because we have to create it. But we do need a game object. And this is the Unity C# class for the first game object. And we're going to call it a ship prefab. So we basically need to create this prefab, and then we're going to give this UI a reference to the game object so that we can initialize it and create one out of thin air. So let's go to our ship type, and it has a this is the text one. All right, so we have the ship UI. Okay, so what this needs, the only thing it cares about is the ship name and the health. So we're going to create two properties for that. We're going to give a reference to it, these two texts here so that we can manipulate them. So we're going to the ship UI. We're going to create a public, and this is the Text Mesh Pro GUI. So this is the GUI, there's different types of objects you can have. Since we're only dealing with UI here, we need the UI version. So this is going to be the ship name, and then we have the public Text Mesh Pro GUI of the ship health. Alright, now that we have those, we can go back to the game and we can give the ship a reference to these two things. So they show up here. So ship name and ship health. Okay, so that's everything we need to do with the UI. I'm going to take this ship though, and we're going to create a prefab out of it. So we're going to create a new folder for all of our prefabs. And in here, we're going to drag and drop this, and that creates this. So now I can delete that, and it disappears from the list. And now we need a reference to a ship prefab, which is right here. Okay, so now we don't have anything initialized, and we need to create this ship object. So when we get a after everything is initialized, we need to do a void step. And what I'm going to do, actually, yeah, we don't need to initialize that. We do need to have a public void initialize. And this will initialize the game, basically. So this we're going to be passing is the game manager. So when we start the game manager is going to give itself to the UI manager, and it's going to go through and set up the simulation to the UI. So for this, we need the mothership object. So what's the best way to do that? Because I don't want this to know about that. I'm more just want to pass it off to it. I guess we can just pass the mothership object itself, or the fleet object. Yeah. Let's go ahead and, as just the fleet, let's go ahead and just pass the fleet object to it. So fleets, fleet. And this will have the mothership object in it. And this will allow us to hook up to the mothership. So we have the fleet, and then it's just sad to hard code it and then like okay, why don't we just pass a list of all the ships and create a game object for each ship, but we just know that we have the mothership. And at the beginning of the game, there's only one mothership. So let's go ahead and create a new object. So if I remember how to do this, um, we need a list. We need to keep all of our list. So let's go ahead and create a list of all the game objects of the ship prefabs. Ships. Let's just call it ships. That's fine. Go ahead and get the material reference. And we do need to initialize this list. So ships equals new list of game objects. Okay, so we need a new game object. So game object geo is equal to is it engine? No, I can't remember the game object dot initialize. No. How to create, dear Google, how to create a new game object in Unity. It's been a while. It's been about 6 months since I've done this. There's a different way to do it. How to create a new game object in Unity from a prefab. Not a YouTube tutorial, I want text. Like, I have scripts that do this. It's been a while. Instantiate. Okay. Alright, instantiate. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Alright, so then we need our prefab. So this will create a new prefab into the world. No, don't do that. Okay, so we have our prefab now, and now we need to hook up to the mothership. So we have our fleets. Just call it public for now. So this will allow me to access this. And then in the mothership we have ship UI. Okay, so we have our prefab. And then here we need to initialize. So we're going to, this is our ship UI. This is our prefab. So when we initialize, and then we're just take the we can take the string of the ship name, and then we're going to take the iShip object. So that's really what we care about at the moment. Ship. Okay, so we have our interface. Because right now the only thing we care about is the interface. We don't care about the actual object. Actually, we need to... I think we probably have to create another interface to the ship. See, this is where inheritance would be good. So you can have like an abstract class called a ship, and then the mothership would be a ship. Just really don't like inheritance, rather do interfaces. Let's go ahead and create the ship name. we're gonna have to store the ship, huh? Because if we want to unsubscribe, we have to have a reference to it. Alright, so we're just going to do this. We're going to need to create we're going to have to create an inheritance class for the ship so that I already have a reference to it. Or no, I could just keep the interface. No, yeah, we're just going to store the interface. Okay, so ship health. Let's just call this SH. Okay, so we're going to store the reference so that if we ever need to unsubscribe, we can subscribe to it. So the ship name dot text is equal to the ship name. Okay, and then the ship health dot text is equal to wow, okay, this one. So text, we have 50 out of 50. So we want to do a let's go ahead and just put this here. This allows us to easily introduce here. So we have a current health. We don't have a max health, do we? I don't have the max health. Let's go to our interface. Let's also create a public float max health so that we can get a reference to it. So in here we need to implement this, and we'll just get rid of this. And then change this. And this would really just be read-only. It's not going to be changed. I don't think, we don't need to do a setter. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just get rid of the setter. And then here we can just remove the setter. Okay. But this allows you to change. So the only thing that can change it is in the constructor. So this is the only place. If you don't have a setter, this is the only place that you can change it. All right. So ship UI. So we have now a reference to the maximum health and the ship health. So go ahead and this is going to be current ship health. Sh dot current health. We'll have a little there. Just dot max health. Now we'll change that. And then we're also going to, whenever we have a, we need to run a method whenever the ship health changes. So public void. This is really just a private void. And then on ship health changed. And we're going to take two floats, current, and then floats max. Okay, so every time the ship's health changed, we're going to do this. Okay, and then we need to register that. So we need to tell this, hey, every time it changes, we're going to do that. So sh dot the event, which is ship health change, and then plus equals on ship health change. So we've told it every time that this happens, we want to, and we might need to register to other things too. So go ahead and change to private void register to ship. And we're going to give it a ship, which is I ship health sh. And we're going to just change this here so that we have all our registrations in one place and we can understand. And then eventually we're going to want to unregister to ship. it's going to be the opposite of this. It's going to give an error saying that we don't know if this actually exists, but it is what it is. Okay, so this is correct. So on the fleet, we want to go ahead and we need to create a ship UI. Or actually, the ship UI is on here. Is on this here. So we need to find it. So go dot trying to remember how to do this. The find dear Google, in Unity, how do you find a script on a game object with code? And it has been way too long. Find game object.find. No. Find objects with type. Okay. Yeah. It's not worked out. Find objects of. Okay, so let's just create. So we need to get a reference to the script. So ship UI script. Let's just call it the ship UI. Let's call it the ship is equal to find objects of game type. We want to find the ship UI of Go. Is that right? No, it's a boolean. Okay, how do I know that it needs to look here? So I know this. Like, so you're looking for the ship UI, but how does it know to go on Go? Come on, Google. Get component. That's the stuff that's attached to here. Is get component. Pretty sure. I thought it was like Go. Does that not work? It's a static method. I think we just get component. So go dot get component. Yeah, there we go. Ship UI. Okay, so that should pull the ship there. Then we do ship dot initialize, and then we're gonna give it the fleet dot mothership. It needs a name, so let's call it mothership. Okay, that should work. And then we need to we're gonna do the ship UI instead of the game object itself, because we can get the game object from that. So new here, and then we're going to ships.add the ship. Not should pop up onto there. We need to initialize this though. So in the game manager, hit start, we're going to Game Manager. Let's go ahead and just do initialize on this here too. So public void initialize, and we're going to take the game manager. Oh yeah, we haven't referenced to it, so FUI.initialize, and we're going to give it a GM. Or no, it needs a fleet. Let's go ahead and go to the game. Let's make this public. I think there's a better way to do this than here, but we just need a fleet. So gm.game.fleet. There we go. And game manager, we need to UI.initialize. Okay, this should work. This is never used. It's just a reference for it. Okay, let's check. Let's see if we did this correctly. So when we initialize the game, we have our ship prefab. Yeah, let's test see if we have a 100 mothership shown up in our window. We do not. It's not here. Oh, okay, you're right. So we do. It's just not in the right place. See, it's up here. So we need to attach it to the parent of the list. So let's go ahead and get the parent. Okay, so here, so go.parent. Forgot to attach things to parents. How do I parent this? How to parent a game object. Transform. So go.transform.parent set parent to this parent. Transform, I believe, is the way to do it. Because we're in the list already. And then this transform is this transform, this mono behavior. Let's just check to see if that works. It's been a while. I really need to get back into this before. Okay, so we have our game object. It's here. Scale is definitely off. Oh, 1. There it is. So something's up with the scale. But we do have a mothership, and it is 100. So, success. Why is this position all the way off? It's this. Does that work? But that's what we need. Okay, we need to make these changes inside. So this is the positioning that's messing things up. So let's go ahead and put it to the side. And this is off the screen. Don't want it off the screen. What is this? This is content. Yeah, why is this list view all the way off? so this. Zero. Why is this 0? Killing me, Smalls. Yeah, I want this at 0. And I want this to be here. And this to be here. This is annoying. It's a hollow Windows. Is it the Windows Manager itself? Yeah. Of course it is. Stretch. Okay. And this be 0. That's fine at the top. It's just this is annoying. Okay, so that's centered there. We want this to be centered. And the width's fine. Cool. Okay, let's try that. Still weird. It's the H delta. Scale's at least 111 now. What these? Yeah, the scale of this is there. I remember there's a way I had to reset the scale. Because I bet the prefab is all messed up now. Let's look at the prefab. Let's go ahead and throw this on here so we can see what. See, it looks perfect here. Okay, so there was a way to change the scale. Let's go ahead and go to transform.scale. Local scale is equal to new vector of 111. Let's see if that fixes it. There you go. Alright, perfect. So we have a mothership, has 100 health. Let's create a button real quick to make sure we can change the health. So on the Fleet UI, okay, let's just actually, let's just change it. So we don't need to create a button. Let's create a timer. It's kind of private health timer, current health timer. Yeah, okay, let's just call it timer. So private float health timer. Okay. And then we're going to set this to past. And so if health timer is less than 0, first off, we're going to reset the health timer. It's equal to 1. And then we're going to decrement health. So current health is minus equals 5. So yeah, that should be it. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Okay, so then we should start seeing things updated. So let's go check. So make sure that we are updated and we're connected to our event. It's working correctly. So that every time that the health changes, the ship health, the UI changes. So every 1 second, this should go down 5. Does not look like it is occurring. First off, let's make sure that we are decrementing. So let's go ahead and I don't think we can do log. Can we log errors from here? Pretty sure we can. So oh, we're not calling update, are we? so we need to update stuff. So in the game, we need to pass to the fleet, the player fleet. Dot update time passed, and then mothership. Okay, so that should work. It wasn't updating the game. The simulation wasn't updating. God, I hope this works. It's not working, I think. Let's see if the... Okay, first off, we need to make sure that the UI is changed. So, let's see. So if this occurs, let's see if the event is firing. So debug dot log, yeah, log error. Log mothership health. Yeah. So this will fire off every time the event happens. And you don't want to have debug.logs in anything that has update because it's very cost inefficient with things. So check our console, see if you have anything logged. Nothing's happening, so the event's not firing. So let's go ahead and go to the mothership. Oh, it's in here though. Let's just take this out. Just have it update when every time we update. See if that changes. Let's see, minus equal 5. Oh, okay, so here's the problem. I'm not updating the right health. So let's go ahead and change this back to what it was. And instead of this, we need to change the property to fire it off. You usually want to have an underscore in front of private variables so you don't have this problem. This is probably why underscores are used for the most part. So yeah, there you go. Now the UI is updating it with the health like we want it to. Congratulations. Okay, so that's done. Let's go to our Trello. Update our Trello. We got this done. We tied in the game manager. We created our mothership object and have the health displayed. And then we also made sure that it all updates. So that's good. And that is how you update things onto. And then another important part of doing UI this way is that we're not changing it every single frame. The only time it updates is when things change. So this actually helps a lot with your resources. It helps with your frame rate. It's just listening. So as soon as it sees that the health has changed, it changes. Instead of checking every single update to see if the health has changed, you let it know immediately. Hey, it's there. It's done. Okay, so now we have our fleet. We have a place for our ships to be once we go on later. So now we have resources. So on our screen, we need some place to have our resources. We can probably put it up here. I guess maybe even putting these buttons down at the bottom and having a band at the top. We can just put this at the bottom for now. But I'm going to create on this fleet window. We have our content. So we have our list view here. Let's go ahead and create an empty. This is going to be on the bottom. And let's go ahead and make it probably a height of like 50. And our list view is going to attach to it like this. So we're going to have let's call this the info bar. We're going to put a background to it. Let's go ahead and put the panel. So let's make it a little darker. Or more opaque, I guess. We can do white text, I guess, for now. Alright, so the first thing we want to put on the panel is resources. So let's go ahead and make a text field. Say resources, and then this will be our label. We're going to put this at the side, attach here. So resources label. This is we're not going to change. And then we're going to, this is the actual resources. We are going to move this is going to be like 0. Let's go ahead and center this. And center this one. Still looks weird. Alright, anyways. So we have our info bar, we have resources. So basically we want to have miners, and they want to mine asteroids. So the more miners you have, the faster you deplete the asteroids, and they have to align. And basically just pull in resources for the fleet, and then we'll use those resources to build stuff. So where do we want to place this? It's like, do we want to have an asteroid? Where do we want to update that there's an asteroid? Because I don't really want it on the screen. I want this to be like a fleets, our fleets, and yeah, I think just have some kind of like asteroid. Let's have the text here, and we'll just put this on the other side for now, like this. 30. Say no asteroid. This will be in here, and then we can update this text once we actually have an asteroid object. It's interesting how I want to do. Like, you think about how you want to do it. For now, we're just gonna have one resource type. Later on, we can have different resource types. Maybe have like different types of asteroids that have different compositions and materials, and you can choose between which asteroids you want to do. But for now, we're just gonna have one resource until we can flesh this out. So I just want to know whether we're mining an asteroid or we're not mining an asteroid. And yeah. Okay, so let's just create a UI object to control these two. This was the info bar. So let's go into our scripts. Go into our UI. We're going to create an info bar script. Open that up. So we're going to need a reference to public text mesh pro of the asteroid, let's just call it, and then public text mesh pro of resources. Let's go ahead and give it the reference. Okay, so here, and then we're going to, this is the asteroid. So we have the asteroid, and then we have the actual resources number. Info bar. Okay, so we have these two. Then we need to create a simulation for the asteroid, and that will be actually in the game. So we need to public void initialize, and we're going to get a game. And we're going to go ahead and just take the store it as a in case we need it later. So game.cg. Need the namespace. This is like my naming convention, but I don't care. Okay, so we're going to set our initial. Well, we need to. Alright, so we need to create the asteroid. It's like how do I want to structure this? I haven't thought about this at all. Let's go ahead and just create an asteroid. I am going to need an asteroid class. I just don't know if I want to put in like an asteroid field or how does I want a resource manager, some kind of like that. For now, we're just gonna create a asteroid. Asteroid. Yeah, we need like an asteroid creator or manager because we don't want the game to do that. We need to have a single place where we go to create asteroids. For now, we're going to put it in a game, and then we'll structure it later once I think about how I want to do that. So we have a public asteroid. And then let's go ahead and create put the script of the asteroid. It's not a mono behavior. Okay, so public asteroid. No. And then it's going to need a amount of resources, so let's call it float. So I could do an int. Then I do int. Public int. So max. Let's do public int of max resources, and then public int of current resources, so that we can have a bar on the bottom to show like progress towards how much. Yeah, I don't think it's like for here. Let's look at the here. We'll have the asteroid and make just like a bar how much is left, and then we don't have like how much is left, but the resources will go up. This will have how much is depleted from it as it goes. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Or a way to do it. I don't know about the best way, but it's a way to do it. And I like that. I like having little bars. And then this will increment as we go. Okay, so max resources. Let's go ahead and set it to 1,000 for now. And then current resources equal to max resources. And then we're going to set it the same way that we did with the other one. We have a public event action floats of on resources changed. There we go. And then so public update. All right. So how do we know something is mining it? We'll have to change that later. But public void update float time passed. So we're going to say like every 5 seconds it'll change it. So float timer, resource timer, and then we'll change this to resource timer is equal to 5. So resource timer minus equals time passed. And if resource timer is less than 0. If it's not equal to 0, so equal to 0, we want to return. And if we do get past that, then we want to first reset the timer to 5, and then we're going to fire off on resources change to invoke, and we're going to okay, we're going to decrement we're going to need to know how much resources came off the asteroid so we can increment our resources for our fleets. But we want the simulation to know that, not the UI. So let's see. I don't think we should do update. We should do mind. Yeah. Let's do mine. So we don't have time passed. We're not going to have a resource timer. So every time we mine it, we so I want to know, like, does the asteroid know how much was mined, or would we just pass how much it was? So let's say mining strength. So int mining strength. Okay. So we have the and we're going to return an int. So current resources. Let's just say mining strength for now, and then we can add multipliers to it later. And then on resources changed, invoke the current resources and the max resources, and then we're going to return mining strength to let them know that this is how much you mined. Later on, we can put like toughness of the asteroid, different mining material, how many miners are on it, and stuff like that. Okay. So let's go ahead and set this up to the info bar. So initialized, we're going to get the game. And in the game we have the asteroid. So let's go ahead and create a new asteroid. So public, or asteroid is equal to new asteroid. And then we'll say we need to how many resources we have. So public int resources. And then we're going to initialize the resources to 1,000. So this will be on the game display, how much is resources we have, and when this updates, we also need to update. So public event action, and we're just going to send an int. We don't need to do anything else. So on resources changed. So on update, we're also going to we need a timer. Later on, this will be to the miners themselves, but for now, we're going to create a resource timer. We're going to initialize it to 5 seconds. To decrement resource timer minus equals to time passed. If resource timer is less than 0, then we are going to, there's going to be other stuff going on. So we're just going to do this for now. Resource timer is equal to 5, and then we're going to asteroid.mine, and then mining strength of 25, something like that. It's going to return an int, so then we say resources plus equals that, and then we're going to on resources changed evoke, and then we're going to pass up resources. Okay, that's good for now, I think, and then eventually we'll move this to the miners themselves later on. And then the game will have a reference to the miners that whenever each individual miner updates, it'll update our resources. But the miners will have access to this fleet. So okay, this looks good. I just need to forgot the info bar UI. Okay, so we have this. We have the game. We need to register to the asteroid so that it has that. Let's go ahead and create our public void register to simulation, because we already have this. So initialize will happen first, and then we're going to register to simulation. So we have the, and we need a method. So public void updates the resources UI. And this is going to take an int. So resources is .text is equal to resources. Okay, so this has to be a string, so we have to force it to be a string. And then we're going to register the game. So game.on resources changed plus equals to update resources UI. Plus equals. And we also need to public void. I think we can just make this into a the arrow operator, but it doesn't really want to do that. I mean, it is private, so I definitely don't want anything else to access this. So, and then we need to need another separate method for updates asteroid UI, and this takes the floats current and the float max. Right? I think I did that. Yep. So asteroid. Okay, so yeah. I mean, for now, we'll just say asteroid.text is equal to here, and it will be current divided by max. Okay, so this will be happening in the UI manager. So we need a public info bar. An IBUI. And IBUI dot initialize, and it needs the game. gm.game. Okay, I think that's correct. We need to register the asteroid. So game.asteroid dot on resources changed is plus equal to update asteroid UI. Okay. And then we're going to need to unregister this when it's dead. Alright, let's go and make sure our references are correct. Okay, so we need an info bar UI, which is here. Yep. Okay, that reference is correct. And in the info bar we have these correct. And that should be it. And then do we update? Sure. I mean, I think we need to. Okay, I think we're missing. So when we initialized, we registered, but we didn't update the actual initialization. So let's go ahead and update resources UI. Come on. Use the resources. So game.resources. Yes. And then the asteroid. And update asteroid UI. And we need the current in the. Let's go ahead and say this is asteroid. Because it says no asteroid at the moment, so now I say asteroid. And then we need to give it the asteroid current health. So game dot asteroid dot current resources, and then game dot asteroid dot max health. And this is not the best way to do this. I don't like this, but we'll just doing it now. Just make sure it works. So, all right, let's check to see if it works. And we need miners. Okay. Every 5 seconds it should decrement. Yeah, here we go. So now we have resources. Right now it's inside the game itself. I don't know if I really want it to be attached to anything else. Maybe like a resource manager. Probably have a script specifically to handle the resources of the game instead of having the game itself do it. Get negative health here, and the asteroid's being mined. It's the correct amount, so that's working. Okay, let's look at our Trello. Okay. Create the first resource, we're done. We're displaying the resource, and then we need to start creating this miner here. First off, I want to move all the mining to a miner ship first, and then we can have a resource manager, so we can start spawning asteroids when they're depleted, and so forth. First off, let's get rid of this decrement health thing, because we know this works, so we're good. Don't need a health timer. Alright, so that works now. We have the asteroid mining. So, I think what I'm going to do is in the stream here, in the next episode, I want to think about how I want to structure the resources and the mining ships and so forth. So the next one we'll start using resources to create a miner, and then we'll have the miner itself go into the asteroid and mine it instead of having the game, because right now the game is handling the mining. But I think I'm gonna create a resource object like how I have fleets that's just gonna handle the resource management, and then the miners will register or go into the resource manager to get stuff. Another thing I want to do is because we have this interface here and it has the health, but I kind of want to give the entire object to the ship UI because right now it just has the health. I think we might be forced to make an abstract class. I don't really want to do an abstract class, but it's the easiest way to really visualize because it's a ship. All these things are ships, so I just don't like inheritance. But this will allow us to just have a ship, and we'll have the ship health as part of the abstract class. I do like this interface though. I mean, like, what is a ship? All it needs is this. This is like perfect actually. Maybe I'll just create a different UI object for this. I do like this setup. It just cares about the ship health and it just registers that. I could send different interfaces to it though. It's interesting. I want to try and avoid using any kind of inheritance. But yeah, I think we can do this. Okay, so we'll end it here, and then tomorrow we'll start working on the miner. We'll start putting the fleets. It'll be below the mothership. We'll start having the miners mine asteroids and get things. They'll start triggering. Each miner will trigger off a resource exchange. So the more you have, the faster it will go. And then we need to destroy the asteroid. And when it's destroyed, we need to spawn another one. And the miners have to realign and so forth. So it takes time to, and maybe some like bonus resources when you finish the resource, like an extra 500 or something when you finish it. And see how that goes. So let's look at my Trello. So create a miner, ensure that the things unsubscribed and so forth for each object that it goes. I don't know, like I don't know if the UI needs to. I think the UI just needs to. We need to create like a resource manager and have the UI register that, so that every time an asteroid is destroyed, it doesn't have to keep unregistering and registering. It just the resource manager will tell the UI when there is an asteroid. I think that would be a much better way to do it. Yeah, I like that idea much better. And then we'll start managing crew. We need stuff for its crew first, though. We need shields. We need combat system in order to. So we need to have jobs first before we can make a crew, and then we can start gaining experience. And then we need something to battle. So we'll start working on that stuff. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.